you understand why Northerners don't trust Texas. It's about slavery. Slavery's the thing that is really coloring every conversation anybody ever has about Texas and its annexation to the United States. Texas is just too blooming big. Nobody knows how big Texas will end up being. In fact, uh, Texas is assumed will spawn off an additional 4 states. So, wow. Since there's no way to really figure out how big Texas is, and Texas can spawn a total of 5 states, that could mean 10 more senators within the United States Congress. It's amazing the number of sort of informal schemes and I would consider extra legal schemes that there were put into play, especially during the U.S.-Mexican War, to try to limit the size of Texas. For instance, U.S. authorities set up a New Mexico territorial government despite recognizing Texas's claim to New Mexico, or at least New Mexico east of the Rio Grande. This wasn't about territory and who should collect taxes or anything like that. This was about U.S. officers opposed to the expansion of slavery essentially freelancing out there on the frontier. Nationalism is one thing, but the balance of power in Congress is what's driving this conversation. Well, in Mexican Texas, with all the Anglo settlers that come in, slavery expanded. It ballooned from 400 slaves in the early 1820s to 5,000 slaves by 1836. Texas clearly will be a great place for slavery to expand into. Let me give you some numbers to explain. During the Mexican period of Texas history, slavery balloons. In the early 1820s, there's maybe 400 slaves in Mexican Texas. By 1836 and independence, that number has grown to 5,000. Many people often claim that Mexico was against slavery and that all these slaves in Texas were there illegally. Categorically wrong. They were in fact tolerant of slavery because Mexican officials saw what slave-driven agriculture could do. It could make Texas productive. Well, once that Texas achieves its independence, during the Republic period, slavery increases tenfold. In fact, by 1850, there's 60,000 slaves in Texas. Well, when Texas is annexed to the United States, a country that has a constitution that in fact protects slavery, slavery triples in the next decade to more than 180,000 slaves by 1860. So clearly, Texas is a slave owner's heaven, and that's the direction it's going in the 1850s. Texas is in fact a boomtown for slavery, with the majority of the folks bringing slaves in coming from places like Mississippi and Alabama. What effect this has on the national scene is that this southern slave power seems to be running the national government.
Greetings, Elder Blacklight. Once again, we're going deep into the heart of Texas. We're trying to illustrate to you how the Most High is trying to wake us up with the murder of Atiana Jefferson, with the murder of her. And I heard it was more. See, reason why I don't have I open up the lines like the rest of the brothers and, talk to those that want to give a comment. I don't need no cheering crew to cheer me on. I don't need that. And I don't need no disruption. And I don't need no brother that think he know what's really going on. Because when I go to the root, that answers all questions. Well, if they say, well, why are the police acting the way they acting? I mean, it's not just in Texas, but it's everywhere. Why are the police acting like this? Why are they shooting us up, killing us up without provocation, without giving us warning? They just talk to us any kind of way, beat us up, do anything. Because they want to keep you in your place. They're terrorists. They want to keep that fear in you. While we were in bondage, I mean physically bondage, we're in mental bondage now. But while we were in physical bondage, they kept terrorizing us. They kept torturing us to put fear in the next generation. Now don't you know that cripples a people from generations to come? It keeps going on from generation to generation. We walking around here ignorant of our ancestors before we came over here as chattel slaves. We ignorant of how we were living, how our culture was before that, before we came over here. They broke us into their frame of mind. So they withheld knowledge. We couldn't read or write. They catch us reading, they kill us or whatever. And the sympathetic Caucasian couldn't encourage us to read or write, or they might get killed. So you're hearing it straight from the Caucasian's mouth, of the roots of Texas and the United States, for that go. In California too. We're gonna hit on California a little later on down the line, because of Nipsey Hussle. Brothers, they don't want to go up against the LAPD. So I could teach about ancient history like Kemet and whatever, but I'm trying to stay current. Trying to stay current to the culture that we are living in now. That's really not our culture. Culture comes from the mind, and we have to adopt this state of mind of the Caucasian in order to survive in his world. Worlds come from the mind of man. World don't mean the planet Earth. It means a system, a cycle. And this system is expanding, and the Caucasian want to transform himself into a mechanical human being. Not no human, but a being. And he's the Antichrist. He can't. Nature is against him, and he's against nature. That's why those fires in California are happening right now. That's why big tornadoes come. You know, the Caucasian is he's immoral. He's corrupt. You know, that's his nature. He was made like that. Yakub made him. We could go into that too. But we go into the root of his corruption in recent times. That wasn't so long ago in Texas. You see? So that's one of the reasons why the police are acting the way they act. Because they know that we're not going to be lay dead forever. That's why Hoover put, we got to stop the rise of a black Messiah. It's the mindset. Messiah is a mindset. Christ is a mindset. You know, and they don't want you to get that mindset. So they keep fear in your heart. So, you know, we want you to rise and shine. It's prime time. And better listen up quick, because you don't know what you might get. You got the kind of flavor that will save you and the kind of knowledge you won't get in college. So this is Black Light. Stay glued to the tube and tune in.